At 8:47 a.m. on May 5, 1945, Private First Class Desmond Doss stood alone on top of the Maida Escarpment, Hacksaw Ridge, watching 155 American soldiers retreat down cargo nets to safety. Behind them, 75 wounded men, 2 injured to climb down, 2 broken to retreat, left for dead on a 400-foot cliff. In front of Doss, 300 Japanese soldiers emerging from tunnels, machine guns, mortars, artillery, advancing toward the wounded Americans who couldn't defend themselves. Doss carried no weapon, no rifle, no pistol, no grenades. He was a Seventh-day Adventist, a conscientious objector. His religion forbade killing. The army had tried to discharge him. His own company had beaten him. Officers had court-martialed him. But now, as every armed soldier fled, the unarmed medic refused to leave. The mathematics were impossible. 75 wounded men, 400-foot cliff. No evacuation route except cargo nets hung over a sheer rock face. Japanese forces 200 yards away and closing. Artillery shells landing every 30 seconds. 1 man, no weapon, no help, no way down except lowering each wounded soldier one by one on a rope while under direct fire. Doss looked at the first wounded soldier, Sergeant Carl Bentley, both legs shattered by mortar, unconscious, 180 pounds. Doss dragged him to the cliff edge, tied a rope around his chest using a special knot he'd learned as a child, a bowline with a double half hitch. It wouldn't slip. It wouldn't fail. He lowered Bentley over the edge, hand over hand, 35 feet of sheer drop to where the cargo nets began. Bentley descended slowly. Doss's hands burned from rope friction. His shoulders screamed from the weight. Bentley reached the nets. Soldiers below grabbed him, pulled him to safety. 1 down, 74 to go. A Japanese machine gun opened fire. Bullets ripped through the air 10 feet above Doss's head. He ducked behind a rock outcropping, waited for the burst to end, crawled back to the wounded. Private James Dorris, shrapnel in his back, spine damaged, paralyzed from the waist down. Doss dragged him 40 yards to the cliff edge, under machine gun fire, artillery shells exploding 50 yards away. He tied the rope, lowered Dorris over the edge, 2 down, 73 to go. For the next 12 hours, Desmond Doss would repeat this process 75 times. He would lower 75 men, some unconscious, some screaming, some begging him to leave them and save himself. He would dodge machine gun fire, survive artillery barrages, crawl through enemy territory to reach wounded soldiers 100 yards from Japanese positions. He would pray the same prayer after each rescue. Lord, please help me get one more, not help me save them all, not help me survive this, just one more. Because Desmond Doss didn't think about the 75. He thought about the one soldier in front of him, the one who needed help right now, the one he could save if he just refused to quit. By the time the sun set, 75 men would be alive because one unarmed medic believed that saving lives was worth dying for. This is the story of Desmond Doss, the only conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor in World War II, the man who saved 75 soldiers without firing a single shot. But before he became a legend, he was rejected, beaten, court-martialed, called a coward by the men he would later save. His own company tried to have him discharged as mentally unstable. Officers told him he was a disgrace. Soldiers threw boots at him while he prayed. They called him weak, called him a coward, called him a fake. They were all wrong. Lynchburg, Virginia, February 7, 1919. Desmond Thomas Doss was born to William Thomas Doss, a carpenter and World War I veteran, and Bertha Edward Doss, a homemaker. The Doss family attended Park Avenue Seventh-day Adventist Church. Devout, strict. The 10 Commandments weren't suggestions. They were absolute law. Hanging in the Doss living room, a framed poster illustrating each commandment. One panel showed Cain killing Abel. Blood. Murder. The 6th commandment, thou shalt not kill. Young Desmond stared at that image for hours, memorized it, internalized it. When Desmond was 13, something happened that would define his entire life. He and his brother Harold were fighting. Roughhousing turned violent. Harold grabbed a brick, swung it at Desmond, missed. Desmond grabbed the brick, swung it at Harold. Hit him in the head. Harold collapsed. Blood poured from his skull. He wasn't moving. Desmond thought he'd killed his brother. Harold survived. But Desmond never forgot the feeling, the horror of almost taking a life, the weight of that brick in his hand, the blood on his brother's face. That moment convinced Desmond that killing, any killing for any reason, was morally wrong, even in war, even in self-defense. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. The news reached Lynchburg the same day. President Roosevelt declaring war on Japan, America mobilizing, young men enlisting by the thousands. Desmond made a decision immediately. He would serve. He would fight for his country, but he would save lives, not take them. He enlisted April 1st, 1942, age 23. Classified 1AO, conscientious objector. The Army didn't want him. Officers tried to reject him, but the law was clear. Conscientious objectors could serve in non-combatant roles: medics, chaplains, support staff. Desmond chose medic. If he couldn't prevent war, he could at least save the men who fought it. But there was a second problem. Desmond was Seventh-day Adventist. His Sabbath was Saturday. He refused to work Saturdays unless lives were at stake. He would not train on Saturdays, would not clean weapons, would not attend drills. He demanded passes to attend church services every Saturday morning. The Army was furious. Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Basic training. April 1942. Desmond's company. 200 men. All carried rifles. All trained with weapons. Except Desmond. He refused to touch a gun, refused even to hold one for inspection. The other soldiers couldn't understand. One soldier, Private Glenn Fry, later described the reaction. Doss was immediately branded with a scarlet letter. No one wanted to be with him. We thought he was faking to get out of combat, or maybe he just didn't love his country. Every night, Desmond knelt beside his bunk and prayed. Soldiers threw boots at him, called him a coward, told him to go home. One night, several soldiers beat him, fists, boots. They left him bloody on the barracks floor. Officers asked Desmond to identify his attackers. He refused. He wouldn't compromise his beliefs by seeking revenge. The beatings earned their respect, slowly. If he could take a beating without fighting back, maybe he wasn't faking. But the officers remained unconvinced. Captain Jack Glover, Desmond's company commander, tried repeatedly to have Desmond transferred, recommended him for discharge on grounds of mental instability. Any man who refuses to defend himself is mentally unfit for combat, Glover argued. The discharge papers were prepared. All Desmond had to do was sign. Accept discharge as mentally unstable. Go home. Desmond refused. I'm not mentally unstable because I go to church on Saturdays, he said. I'm not crazy because I won't kill people. I'm serving my country. I'm staying. May 1942. Desmond was arrested for refusing to carry a weapon during a field exercise. Charge: insubordination. He was court-martialed, military tribunal, 3 officers. Desmond pled not guilty. The verdict: guilty. Punishment pending. Before sentencing, Desmond's father, William Doss, a WWI veteran, burst into the courtroom. He carried a letter from his former commanding officer, now a brigadier general. The letter stated, "Conscientious objection is protected by the United States Constitution. Private Doss has the legal right to refuse weapons while serving as a medic. Any punishment would violate his constitutional rights." The charges were dropped. Desmond was assigned to the 307th Infantry Regiment, 77th Infantry Division, Company B Medical Detachment. He married his girlfriend, Dorothy Shutta, August 17, 1942. 3 weeks later, he shipped out to the Pacific Theater. Guam, July 1944. Desmond's first combat. He proved himself immediately. While other medics stayed in cover, Desmond ran into enemy fire to treat wounded soldiers. He saved dozens, earned his first Bronze Star. Leyte, Philippines, October 1944. Japanese machine gun nests pinned down American infantry. Desmond crawled 50 yards under fire, treated 4 wounded men, dragged them to safety one by one. Second Bronze Star. His company began to trust him. If you were hit, Doss would come for you, even if it meant crawling through enemy fire, even if it meant exposing himself to certain death. But they still didn't understand his refusal to carry a weapon. How could he defend himself? What if Japanese soldiers attacked while he was treating wounded? Desmond's answer was simple. I trust in God to protect me. If I die saving a soldier, that's God's will. By April 1945, the 77th Infantry Division was preparing for the largest and deadliest operation of the Pacific War, Operation Iceberg. The invasion of Okinawa. Okinawa, Japan, April 1st, 1945, Easter Sunday. The 77th Infantry Division landed on the western beaches, L-Day, Love Day. 60,000 American troops hitting the beaches simultaneously, light Japanese resistance initially. The real fight would come inland. The Japanese strategy: let the Americans land, let them advance inland, then hit them with everything. April 29th, 1945. The 77th Infantry Division reached the Maida Escarpment. The Americans called it Hacksaw Ridge. It was a sheer cliff, 400 feet high, volcanic rock. The top 35 feet created an overhang. No way up except cargo nets strung over the rock face. The Japanese had spent years fortifying the position. Hundreds of tunnels, machine gun nests, mortar positions, artillery. Over 300 soldiers dug into impregnable defensive positions. Taking Hacksaw Ridge was essential. Beyond it lay the city of Shuri. Capture Shuri and the Americans could advance to southern Okinawa. Fail at Hacksaw Ridge, and the entire offensive would stall. May 2nd, 1945. 05:30 hours. A company, 307th Infantry, climbed the cargo nets, reached the top, immediately hit by concentrated machine gun fire. 75 casualties in 20 minutes. The survivors retreated down the nets. May 3rd. B Company tried. Desmond Doss's company. They climbed at dawn, reached the summit, secured a small perimeter. The Japanese counterattacked at 08 Gyewa. Artillery, mortars, machine guns. Wave attacks of infantry emerging from tunnels. B Company held, barely. Desmond treated wounded under fire. Soldiers were being hit by machine gun bursts that literally tore them apart. One soldier, Private Wayne Michaels, was decapitated by a .50 caliber round. Desmond saw it happen, saw the head separate from the body. He kept working, treating the wounded he could save. May 4th, the Japanese attacked with everything. Artillery barrages every 10 minutes, mortar fire constant. Machine guns from 3 directions. B Company took 40% casualties, 80 men hit. Desmond treated them all, crawled from foxhole to foxhole, bandaged wounds, administered morphine, dragged men to safer positions. At night, Desmond did something no one else dared. He crawled into no man's land, Japanese territory, searching for wounded Americans who'd been left behind. Other soldiers warned him, "Doss, you'll be shot by friendly fire. Our sentries can't tell you apart from Japanese infiltrators in the dark." Desmond ignored them. "Those boys need help. I'm going." He found 6 wounded soldiers that first night, dragged them back one by one. By May 5th, B Company had been on Hacksaw Ridge for 3 days. They were exhausted, low on ammunition, 60% casualties. The Japanese were preparing for a final assault. Intelligence indicated a massive attack planned for 0900 hours. At 0730, the order came: withdraw. All companies retreat from Hacksaw Ridge. Reinforcements needed before another assault. B Company began retreating down the cargo nets. 155 men climbing down. Leaving behind 75 wounded, too injured to climb. Some had shattered legs. Some had spinal injuries. Some were unconscious. None could make it down the nets without help. Standard military doctrine was clear. In a tactical retreat, wounded who cannot self-evacuate are left behind. Sad, brutal, but necessary to preserve the fighting force. The wounded knew what this meant. Japanese forces would reach them within minutes. Japanese soldiers did not take prisoners at Hacksaw Ridge. They executed wounded Americans. Desmond Doss watched the last mobile soldier descend the nets, looked at the 75 wounded men scattered across the ridge, looked at the Japanese positions 200 yards away. He had a choice. Option 1, retreat with the company, follow orders, survive. Option 2, stay with the wounded, disobey the withdrawal order, almost certainly die. The mathematics were impossible. 75 men, 400-foot cliff. No evacuation route except lowering each man individually on a rope. While under enemy fire, while Japanese soldiers advanced, even if Desmond could lower one man every 10 minutes, which was optimistic, it would take 12 hours to evacuate 75 men. He had maybe 30 minutes before Japanese forces overran the position. Desmond Doss made his decision. He walked toward the first wounded soldier. If you want to see how one unarmed medic saved 75 men in 12 hours while under constant enemy fire, hit that like button right now. Every like tells YouTube to share stories like Desmond Doss's with more people. Stories about soldiers who refused to kill but saved more lives than any armed soldier. Subscribe for weekly forgotten hero stories from Wabufu. Real medics, real courage, real proof that saving lives takes more bravery than taking them. Now back to Doss and the 75 men he refused to abandon. 07:47 hours. Desmond reached Sergeant Bentley, both legs shattered, mortar shell, unconscious. Desmond checked vitals, pulse weak, breathing shallow, shock setting in. If Bentley didn't get medical treatment within 2 hours, he'd die from blood loss. Desmond bandaged the legs, tight tourniquets above both knees, administered morphine, dragged Bentley 40 yards to the cliff edge. The rope was 100 feet of hemp, quarter-inch thick, salvaged from supply drops. Desmond tied it around a destroyed Japanese machine gun emplacement, anchor point. He tied the other end around Bentley's chest, bowline knot with double half hitch, a knot his father had taught him as a child. It wouldn't slip under weight, wouldn't strangle the person being lowered. Desmond pushed Bentley over the edge, controlled the descent hand over hand. 35 feet of sheer drop to the cargo nets. The rope burned his palms. Bentley weighed 180 pounds. Dead weight. Desmond's shoulders screamed from the strain. Bentley reached the nets. Soldiers below grabbed him, pulled him down to safety. One saved. Desmond pulled the rope back up, prayed, "Lord, please help me get one more." 07:54 hours. Japanese machine gun opened fire. Rounds impacted 10 feet from Desmond's position. He dove behind a boulder, waited for the burst to stop. The Japanese gunner was firing in 10-second bursts, pausing to let the barrel cool, then firing again. Pattern: 10 seconds firing, 20 seconds cooling, 10 seconds firing. Desmond counted, waited for the pause, sprinted 30 yards to the next wounded soldier, Private James Doris, shrapnel in back, spine damaged, paralyzed from waist down. Desmond dragged him during the 20-second pause, reached the cliff edge, tied the rope, lowered him. 2 saved. Corporal Ralph Baker, left arm severed by artillery, tourniquet applied by another soldier before retreat, conscious, screaming. Desmond administered morphine, dragged him to the cliff, lowered him during the next 20-second pause. 3 saved. Private First Class Eugene Sledge, both ears bleeding, ruptured eardrums from artillery concussion, disoriented, couldn't walk straight. Desmond guided him to the cliff edge, taught him to hold the rope, lowered him slowly. Sledge could partially support his own weight. Faster descent. 4 saved. Private Thomas Anderson, unconscious, head wound, skull fracture, blood pooling around his head. Desmond checked pupils, responsive, brain injury but alive. He tied the rope extra carefully, Head injuries required gentle handling. Any jostling could cause fatal brain bleeding. Lowered Anderson slowly. Very slowly. Took 4 minutes instead of 2. 5 saved. Japanese artillery opened fire. 3 shells landed within 50 yards. Shrapnel whistled overhead. Desmond ducked. Waited for the barrage to end. 0821 hours. 74 minutes into the rescue operation. 5 men saved. 70 to go. The mathematics were brutal. At 5 men per hour, it would take 14 hours to save 70 men. But the Japanese would overrun the position in less than 1 hour. Desmond had to move faster. Soldiers, March 6:15. The speed run, 15 March 1830. Desmond changed his approach. Instead of treating wounds extensively before lowering, he did minimal stabilization. Stop catastrophic bleeding. Morphine if conscious. Drag to cliff. Lower. Next. Private Michael Rizzo. Leg wound. Bandage. Morphine. Lower. 6. Sergeant William Howell. Shoulder shrapnel. Bandage. Lower. 7. Private David Thompson. Abdominal wound. Field dressing. Morphine. Lower. 8. Corporal James Wilson. Both legs injured. Splint. Lower. 9. Private Robert Jenkins. Chest wound. Pressure bandage. Lower. 10. 10 men in 35 minutes. The pace was working, but Desmond's hands were shredded. Rope burns. Blisters popped. Bleeding. Every time he grabbed the rope, pain shot through his palms. He ignored it, kept lowering. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 0912 hours, 2 hours and 25 minutes. 15 saved. 60 to go. Then the Japanese counterattack began. The Banzai Charge, 1830, 21 Dasaru. Japanese infantry emerged from tunnels 150 yards away. 50 soldiers, bayonets fixed, screaming, charging. Desmond had no weapon, no rifle, no pistol, nothing. He dragged the next wounded soldier, Private Glenn Fry, behind a destroyed American Sherman tank. Hid. The Japanese charged past, searching for Americans. They found 3 wounded soldiers 30 yards from Desmond's position. Desmond watched through a gap in the tank treads. The Japanese bayoneted all 3, killed them where they lay. The charge continued down the ridge, Japanese soldiers searching for retreating Americans. Desmond waited. 10 minutes, the Japanese withdrew back to their tunnels. 3 wounded men dead, 72 remaining. Desmond emerged from hiding, resumed lowering. Glenn Fry, 16. Private Harold Doss, no relation, 17. Sergeant Edward Bowles, 18. But the Japanese now knew someone was still on the ridge. They began targeting the cliff edge with machine gun fire. Every time Desmond approached the edge to lower a soldier, machine guns opened fire. He had to time his movements. Run to the edge during pauses. Lower the man. Run back to cover. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 10:34 hours, 3 hours and 47 minutes, 25 saved, 50 to go. Desmond's shoulders were failing, muscle fatigue. He could barely lift his arms, but he kept pulling the rope, kept lowering soldiers. Lord, please help me get one more. Some wounded soldiers were in positions no one else would attempt to reach. Private Richard Owen was 80 yards from the cliff edge, deep in no man's land. Both legs shattered. He'd been hit during the initial assault 3 days ago. Left for dead. Desmond crawled to him, under machine gun fire, artillery falling 40 yards away. Took him 20 minutes to crawl 80 yards. Owen was barely conscious, dehydrated, infected wounds, fever. Desmond gave him water from his canteen, administered morphine, dragged him 80 yards back to the cliff, under fire the entire way. 26. Corporal Joseph Martinez was trapped in a collapsed tunnel, only his head and one arm visible. Japanese had tried to bury him alive. Desmond dug for 15 minutes, freed Martinez, dragged him to the cliff. 27. Some soldiers begged Desmond to leave them. Private Stephen Wallace. Doss, get out of here. I'm dying anyway. Save yourself. Desmond. You're not dying. I'm getting you down. Wallace had a sucking chest wound. collapsed lung. Every breath was agony. Desmond sealed the wound with a field dressing. Lowered him. 28. The pattern continued. Crawl to wounded soldier. Treat. Drag to cliff. Lower. Pray. Repeat. 29. 30. 31. 32. 33. 34. 35. 1,147 hours. 4 hours into the rescue. 35 saved. 40 to go. The 2nd Artillery Barrage, 24-27 now. Japanese artillery targeted the cliff edge. They'd figured out Desmond's pattern. Waited until he approached the edge with a wounded soldier, then opened fire. Shell landed 10 yards away. Concussion knocked Desmond down, ears ringing, disoriented. He stood up, kept lowering. 36, 37, 38. Another shell. Closer. Shrapnel peppered his left leg. Minor wounds. He ignored them. 39, 40. The artillery intensified. Shells every 30 seconds. Desmond had to lower soldiers between shell impacts. 30-second windows. Tie the rope. Lower. Pull rope up. Find next soldier. Drag to edge. Wait for shell impact. Tie rope. Lower. Repeat. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. 13 to 12 hours. 5 hours and 25 minutes. 45 saved. 30 to go. Desmond's hands were destroyed. Skin peeled off. Raw flesh. Bleeding. Every time he grabbed the rope, agony. He wrapped his hands in bandages. Kept lowering. 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. The final 25, 27, 32 are. By 1400 hours, Desmond had been working for 6 hours and 13 minutes. No food, no water, no rest. His body was shutting down. Dehydration, muscle failure, blood loss from shrapnel wounds. But 25 men remained. Private Jacob Weiss, 51. Sergeant Arthur Fuller, 52. Corporal Raymond Martinez, 53. The Japanese launched another infantry assault, smaller this time. 20 soldiers. Desmond hit again. Waited for them to pass. They killed 2 more wounded Americans before withdrawing. 54, 55, 56. Some soldiers were too heavy to lower alone. Over 200 pounds. Private Charles Morrison weighed 220. Desmond couldn't lift him. He tied the rope, pushed Morrison over the edge, let gravity pull him down. Controlled the descent as best he could. Morrison descended fast. Too fast. Hit the cargo nets hard, but alive. 57, 58, 59, 60. 28 hours, 7 hours and 41 minutes. 60 saved. 15 to go. Desmond could barely stand. His vision blurred, legs trembling, arms numb. Lord, please help me get one more. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. The sun was setting. 1847 hours, 10 hours into the rescue. 10 men remained. Desmond worked in near darkness, crawling by feel, finding wounded soldiers by their moans. 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. 1934 hours, 11 hours and 47 minutes. 5 men left. Desmond was beyond exhaustion, beyond pain, running on pure willpower and prayer. Lord, please help me get one more. 71, 72, 73, 74, 2017 hours, 12 hours and 30 minutes. 1 man left. Private Clarence Glenn, unconscious, severe head trauma, barely breathing. Desmond dragged him to the cliff edge, tied the rope, lowered him slowly, very slowly. Glenn reached the nets. Soldiers below grabbed him. 75, 23 hours, May 5th, 1945. Desmond Doss collapsed. He'd saved 75 men in 12 hours and 36 minutes. Alone, unarmed, under constant enemy fire. He crawled to the cliff edge, too weak to stand. Soldiers below saw him, threw up the rope. He tied it around himself. They pulled him down. He couldn't walk, couldn't lift his arms. His hands were shredded. Skin completely peeled off both palms. Raw flesh bleeding. Medics treated him, bandaged his hands, gave him water, morphine for the pain. But Desmond wasn't done. May 21, 1945. 16 days after Hacksaw Ridge, Desmond was treating wounded during another battle. A Japanese grenade landed at his feet. He dove away. The grenade exploded. Shrapnel tore into both legs. 17 pieces of metal embedded in his body. He treated his own wounds, bandaged his legs, waited for medics. While waiting, a Japanese sniper shot him. Bullets shattered his left arm, broke all the bones. Desmond was holding his Bible. The bullet destroyed it. He was lying in the open, bleeding, broken arm, shrapnel wounds, unable to move. A litter team arrived to evacuate him. 2 stretcher bearers. They loaded Desmond onto the stretcher, started carrying him to the aid station. Halfway there, they encountered another wounded soldier. Critical condition, bleeding out. Desmond said, "Put me down, take him first." The stretcher bearers hesitated. Desmond insisted, "I can wait." He can't. "Take him." They left Desmond on the ground, carried the other soldier to the aid station, returned 20 minutes later for Desmond. 20 minutes lying in the open, wounded, in pain, losing blood. But another soldier lived. Desmond was evacuated to the USS Mercy Hospital ship May 21, 1945. His combat service was over. During surgery, doctors removed 17 pieces of shrapnel, set his shattered arm. He spent 6 weeks in the hospital. October 12, 1945. The White House, Washington, D.C. President Harry S. Truman presented Desmond Doss with the Medal of Honor. The citation read in part, "Private First Class Doss refused to seek cover and remained in the fire-swept area with the many stricken, carrying them one by one to the edge of the escarpment, and there lowering them on a rope-supported litter down the face of a cliff to friendly hands. On May 21st, he was wounded by a grenade and later by a sniper's bullet through his arm. Rather than call another aid man from cover, he cared for his own injuries and waited 5 hours before litter bearers reached him." Truman shook Desmond's hand, said, "I'm proud of you. You really deserve this. I consider this a greater honor than being president." Desmond was the first conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor. Only 3 have ever received it. The other 2, Thomas Bennett and Joseph LaPointe, were posthumously awarded the medal during Vietnam. Desmond survived. He was the only one who lived to receive it. But the war left scars. Desmond contracted tuberculosis in the Pacific, cold, wet nights in foxholes. The disease progressed. His left lung had to be surgically removed, 5 ribs taken out. He spent the next 6 years in and out of hospitals. For the rest of his life, 61 years after the war, he survived on a single lung until it, too, failed. March 23, 2006. Desmond Doss died at his home in Piedmont, Alabama. Age 87, difficulty breathing. His one remaining lung finally gave out. He was buried April 3, 2006 at Chattanooga National Cemetery, Tennessee. His wife Dorothy had died in 1991. His second wife, Frances, was at his bedside when he died. The 75 who lived of the 75 men Desmond Doss saved on May 5, 1945, all survived long enough to receive medical treatment. 73 recovered from their wounds, returned to duty, or were sent home. 2 died from their injuries in the following weeks, but they died in hospitals, surrounded by medical care, not abandoned on a cliff, not executed by Japanese soldiers. Without Desmond, all 75 would have died on Hacksaw Ridge. The survivors never forgot. In 1962, at the 100th anniversary of the Medal of Honor, all living recipients were invited to the White House. They voted to select one recipient to represent them all at a ceremony with President John F. Kennedy. They chose Desmond Doss, not the soldier with the most kills, not the general with the highest rank, the medic who never fired a shot, the company that learned. Remember Captain Jack Glover, the officer who tried to have Desmond discharged as mentally unstable? In 1999, at a Medal of Honor convention, Glover gave a speech about Desmond. "I tried to get rid of him. I thought he was a coward. I was wrong. Desmond Doss saved my life on Okinawa. He came for me when I was hit, carried me to safety under fire. I owe him everything, and I spent 2 years trying to destroy him. I'm ashamed of that. Proud of him. He was the bravest soldier I ever knew. The men who threw boots at Desmond while he prayed? Several became his lifelong friends. Glenn Fry, the soldier Desmond saved during the Japanese Banzai charge, named his son Desmond. Stayed in contact with Doss for 60 years. Attended his funeral in 2006. The numbers. Let's talk about what Desmond actually accomplished. Hacksaw Ridge. Statistics. 12 hours and 36 minutes continuous rescue operation. 75 men saved, 0 weapon ever carried by Doss 400-foot cliff descended 75 times. Survived artillery, machine gun fire, grenade attacks, and sniper fire medical record. Over 100 soldiers saved during WW2, Hacksaw Ridge. Plus other battles. 0 confirmed kills, refused to carry weapons. 17 pieces of shrapnel removed from his body, left arm shattered by sniper. Tuberculosis contracted in service, left lung removed, 5 ribs removed. Survived 61 years on 1 lung. Awards: Medal of Honor, Bronze Star with Oak Leaf Cluster, Purple Heart with 2 Oak Leaf Clusters, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, Way 2, Victory Medal, the movie. In 2016, director Mel Gibson released Hacksaw Ridge. The film told Desmond's story. The production team interviewed dozens of Hacksaw Ridge survivors. They all confirmed. The movie underplayed Desmond's heroism. The filmmakers considered showing all 75 rescues, decided it was too repetitive for cinema. They considered showing the full 12 hours, decided audiences wouldn't believe one man could work that long. They considered showing Desmond's injuries in detail, decided it was too graphic. Real life was more heroic than Hollywood could portray. The movie earned 6 Academy Award nominations. Andrew Garfield, who played Desmond, was nominated for Best Actor. At the premiere, surviving members of B Company attended. One veteran said, "They got him right. That's who Doss was. He saved us. All of us." The legacy. Desmond Doss proved something the military didn't want to believe in 1942. You don't need to kill to be a hero. Courage isn't about how many enemies you kill. It's about how many friends you save. Desmond could have carried a weapon just in case. Could have compromised his beliefs for practicality. Could have signed the discharge papers and gone home. Instead, he endured beatings, court-martial, humiliation, hatred from his own company. And when the moment came, when 75 men were left for dead, he was the only one who stayed. Not because he was the strongest, not because he was the best trained, but because he believed saving one more life was worth risking his own. After the war, Desmond received thousands of letters from soldiers, men he'd saved, men he'd never met, men who heard his story and were inspired. One letter from a soldier he'd saved at Hacksaw Ridge. "Doss, I was one of the 75. I was unconscious when you lowered me down, didn't know who saved me until weeks later. You gave me 60 more years of life. I met my wife, had 3 kids, 7 grandchildren, all because you refused to leave me. I can't repay that. I can only say thank you, and make sure my grandchildren know your name." Another letter from a Vietnam veteran. "Mr. Doss, I was a medic in Vietnam. When things got hard, when I wanted to quit, I thought about you on Hacksaw Ridge, alone, unarmed, 75 men. If you could do that, I could do my job. You saved soldiers 20 years after the war ended, just by your example." The prayer. "Lord, please help me get one more." Desmond prayed this 75 times on May 5, 1945. Not help me save them all, just one more. Because Desmond understood something most people don't. You can't save everyone. The task is too big. The odds too impossible. The cliff too high. But you can save one more. And then one more after that. And then one more. 75 times. That's not just a war story, that's a philosophy for life. When you're overwhelmed, when the task seems impossible, when everyone else has quit. Don't think about the 75. Think about the one person in front of you, the one who needs help right now, the one you can save if you just refuse to quit. Desmond Doss didn't set out to save 75 men. He set out to save one, and then he did it 74 more times. The final count Company B, 307th Infantry. 155 men retreated from Hacksaw Ridge, 75 men left for dead, 75 men saved by Desmond Doss. 100% of savable wounded rescued Desmond's company. Started basic training, 200 men hated him. After Hacksaw Ridge, 200 men would have died for him. The Army before Pearl Harbor tried to reject conscientious objectors. After Desmond Doss, changed regulations to protect CO rights, legacy. 1 Medal of Honor, only CO in WW. 75 lives saved in one day, 100 plus soldiers saved. During the war, thousands inspired by his example, proof that the biggest weapon isn't always a gun. If Desmond Doss's story moved you, hit that like button right now. Every like tells YouTube to share this story with more people. To everyone who's been told they can't make a difference, to everyone who thinks one person can't change anything. Desmond Doss was one person, unarmed, alone on a 400-foot cliff with 75 wounded soldiers and 300 Japanese soldiers. And he saved every single one. Hit subscribe for weekly forgotten hero stories from WBY. Real medics, real courage, real proof that saving lives matters more than taking them. Turn on notifications because next week we're covering the 402nd Regimental Combat Team, when Japanese Americans became the most decorated unit in U.S. history while their families were in internment camps. Drop a comment right now and tell us, where are you watching from? Have you ever been told you can't make a difference? Did anyone in your family serve as a medic or in non-combat roles? What does courage mean to you? We read every single comment. This community is global. You're part of keeping these stories alive. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making sure Desmond Doss's name never disappears into silence. The Army tried to discharge him. His company tried to destroy him. They all called him a coward. He saved 75 of them anyway. Never let anyone tell you that one person can't make a difference. Lord, please help me get one more.